Welcome back and Happy New Year. Today we're going to be talking about how you can use all the things you achieved in 2024 to improve the quality of your work in 2025. Weekly Wins is all about celebrating our achievements as music producers. Remember, it takes small everyday wins to build up into big success. And I'm going to have a little look at the things that I did in 2024, compare them to what I'm doing now to try and demonstrate that point. So this last week I looked at what I was doing early January 2024 and I compared it to what I was doing now, and I mainly looked at the quality of my music and the quality of my visuals and brand. So I'm going to start off by showing you the difference. I want to show you how far I've come in the last year, and it's mainly to prompt you to do the same thing. Look back a year ago today, what you were creating, and compare it to what you're doing now, and I guarantee you'll have come a long way. So I actually found a reel that I made that I posted on Instagram. It was around February 2024, and it has a song that I was making at the time called Flow. I never actually released this song. I didn't think it was quite good enough at the time. I was still doing a lot of learning, but yeah, this is a reel with that song on, and I'm going to compare it to a reel that I posted last week in my new studio with a new song, and you can see the difference. So let's have a look. It's this one here. Okay, so not too bad. I was trying to film some stuff in my studio. I was getting there with a bit of production. It was a nice idea. But then let's compare it to one I posted the other day. So this one here. So if I was to sum up like the difference between the two, for me, it's mainly about depth, and that's what I was going for. I wanted my music to have some more depth and to be a bit more interesting and coherent, and I also wanted my visuals to kind of create a bit more of a vibe. So the way I did this is actually through comparing to other people, and usually we try and say to stay away from comparing to other people, comparing your music to other artists, because sometimes it can be pretty demoralizing, because a lot of the people we listen to are professional artists and their music sounds amazing, and then you compare it to your own, you can be overcritical. It can make you feel a little bit like you're failing or you're not doing that well. So most of the time it's not great to compare yourself too much, especially with social media and stuff. When it comes to trying to improve the quality of your music or your visuals, for example, comparing to other people, for me, I find it really helpful. So the way it can help in this context, first of all, it's about being really honest with yourself about what it is you don't like about your music or your production or your visuals, your branding, and what it is that you think needs improving. That's the first step. An example of this is I was listening to my music, and I've released a load of songs this year. Some of them have done quite well. In my last video I talked about how they've got over 100,000 Spotify streams, so I'm really proud of that. But still, when I listen to my own music, I'm still often a bit like, it's not quite there yet. It's not at the kind of standard that I'm aiming for, and that's okay. I'm happy to be there right now because I'm still learning, but I did want to see if I can improve the quality. I had a Sultan and Shepherd reference track that I was using for the last song I was making, and listening to the quality of that compared to mine, there's obviously going to be a difference there, but I still wanted to push myself further towards it, and how can I make this even just a little bit better than in my last few releases. So what I decided to do with music is I took a lot longer on this song than I usually do. I had a period of time where I was doing about 5 songs for this EP with a record label, and I still needed a few left to do in a short period of time, so I was trying to sort of get through them fairly quickly. But what I did this time was I said, right, put the brakes on for a sec and really go in on this song, take a little bit more time with it, and do some learning every step of the way. So instead of doing it quickly, I focused on each individual bit of the track. I used the reference track really specifically. I was looking at, when they were changing things within the song. So I was looking at arrangement, I was looking at the timing of things, I was listening for the mixing side of things, where the kick and bass is sitting. I was really going in on it to try and just push myself a little bit further forward. And the outcome is, it does sound a lot better than the stuff I was doing recently, but I could have kind of whipped that song up and finished it quite quickly, and it probably wouldn't have had the same outcome. But it was only by realizing that I didn't like the kind of overall production as much of my own music as when I listen to someone else's, and then pinpointing that a lot of it I think comes down to the mixing stage for me, sound selection as well. And then from there I was able to really compare to someone else's work, and it drove me forwards. That doesn't mean every single time I'm going to compare to someone else's on that level. It just meant that I had a specific goal to improve the quality, and I could do that by looking at what other people are doing and using resources like YouTube to try and find out how to go about doing that. So that was with the music side. Another example is on the visuals. So I was looking at my visuals, and I'd started filming myself in the studio, which was a good start. I made a load of reels over a period of a couple of months around some releases to just sort of give it a go. But still, I was looking at other people's and was like, there's something that felt like it was missing with mine, and I started to highlight that I think it was just they were a little bit inconsistent. So the lighting and stuff was a bit different throughout, and I didn't feel like they had that much depth and warmth that I wanted. So I did the same thing then. I looked at an artist, this artist that's just popped up now. I really like their music, but I also really like what they've done with their visuals. Their Instagram, you can see it's very consistent. They've chosen a vibe and then they've stuck to it throughout, and they've made it unique to them. They've carved out something that fits with their brand, and then they've kept it consistent. So it looks really aesthetically pleasing when you're looking at it, and that can be a really good way to help draw like an audience in, because they can kind of relate to it, rather than mine that was a little bit more inconsistent in terms of the branding, and I didn't feel like it had enough depth to sort of draw people in. So I was like, okay, how am I going to address this? And again, just like music, it usually comes down to just using those resources that are out there. So YouTube, I'm always asking ChatGPT questions as well. Like, I was like, how do they get this kind of depth in their video compared to mine? So I started looking at filters on CapCut to put over the top of my videos, and I started mixing like a couple of filters together, and then started looking at the color balancing so that it came up with something that I quite liked. Instead of just putting one filter over the top saying job done, it was helpful to kind of layer up a few and just change things around until I was happy with it. And then when I was happy with that, I started putting on a few different videos, and I'll show you a different one now. I haven't actually uploaded this one yet, but this is another example, and you can see that they're all kind of looking more consistent, and there's some depth to it. So I feel like I managed to drive that forward at the same time as driving the music forward, and I think that was the biggest difference between that first reel and the song, and the second reel and the song. I guess you might be thinking, it might not take you a year to do that, but I think the length of time was more about the practice along the way. So instead of constantly trying to update every single post, I had a period of time making music in this way, and a period of time putting out some content in this way, and then at the end of that you can kind of analyze and see what worked and what didn't, and you can look at it as a whole and take a bit of a step back and think, what do I want to improve about this? End of year is a very good time to do that. We're always a little bit more reflective. We want to try and sort of move on to the next stage. And quite quickly, because I've done all that work throughout the year, it was easier to just sort of do some very minor adjustments really, and it boosted it to the next level. And all it really took was dedicating a bit of time in being a little bit sort of critical about your own work, and then looking for inspiration from other people that you admire or you look up to, and just thinking, what is it that they're doing that I like? Whether it's a certain way they make their songs, maybe it's a certain sound, or maybe you're on their Instagram profile and you're like, I really like this branding, it makes me want to look at each video. And as soon as you start asking those questions, you can then ask resources like YouTube tutorials, like ChatGPT, Google, whatever. You can start asking that how to do those same things, and then you can incorporate that into your music and your branding, and before you know it, it's all looking a little bit more professional, and you've boosted yourself that step forward. So the three things I'd say to take away from this video are, one is to look back at what you've done in 2024, look back at your music, look back at your branding, and ask yourself, is there anything that I can improve on? What bits about my music or my branding do I want to push forward and improve the quality on? When you have those answers, then the second thing to do is just look for inspiration. And this is the fun bit, because you get to just, listen to the music of your favorite artists, have a look at their branding, their websites, their social pages, and just think about what is it that they're doing that I like, basically. Keep it nice and simple. The last thing to do is just to figure out how you can implement that into your production or your branding, and that's where just use any resources you've got. YouTube's a brilliant one. It's free. There's loads of information on there. Same with ChatGPT. You can ask it a lot of questions. I'm going to do a video on using ChatGPT to help sort of improve your production and branding, so I'll go over that on another video. There's also paid lessons, there's DJ academies, artists might have a Patreon page, things like that that you can access and, you know, pay someone a fee to get a more kind of personalized session. I've done loads of those in the past and they're really helpful. And there's also asking for feedback from different artists and reaching out to people on social media, you know, anyone that you know that could have a listen to your songs and give you some feedback. So if you do all that, then you might be surprised at how much you've actually progressed. And what's great is that all the work that you did in 2024 will have put you in a position where you can actually make some pretty small tweaks here and there, but the quality is going to go up massively. And that's what I experienced. I didn't actually do that much. It wasn't mind-blowing what I did with the song and with the visuals. I just sort of took the time to look into it and made a few little actions, and yeah, it really paid off. So that's my weekly win. I managed to improve the quality of my music and my branding a little bit to help me move on to the next stage. But I really want to hear what you've improved on and what you've been achieving, what you've been up to in music production. So please drop us a comment, let us know. It could be as little as you finished a loop today, or you could say that you managed to sign to one of your favorite record labels. You might have learned something. You might have, you know, watched a YouTube tutorial about how to mix your song better. All these little wins, like I said, they all build up into big success. So let me know what you've been up to. I'll read them out on future shows. Thank you all for listening today, and I'll catch you on the next one.